Okay, got it. We're good. We're good to go.
So,
No problem, Christine has to duck out at 3:45. Okay, well, welcome everybody to our webinar with Dr. Michael Tatonetti. He says you can call him Michael. Dr. Tatonetti is a certified association executive and certified pricing professional. That's a mouthful. Working with associations and pricing models to help with financial sustainability. As a founder of Pricing for Associations, Michael and his team work with other associations to harmonize pricing and value across membership, which I think is going to be excellent. I'm going to have so many questions for you. As we as a membership also are looking to add, extra value and stuff for our members. So take it away.
yeah, awesome. All right, let me go ahead and share screen and make sure I can see everybody. All right, awesome. Okay, so good afternoon, everyone. No matter where you are, it's afternoon now. Um, a few like housekeeping things I always like to share. Number one, you can always interrupt me at any time. So if you have questions throughout, feel free to put them in the chat. I've got the chat opened, or feel free to just interrupt since we're an intimate group. I would definitely want to make sure I'm answering any questions that you might have as we go. And then slide deck, I'm sure that'll be shared. If you need it for any reason, let me know. But yeah, okay, yeah, I see. Perfect. So that'll be shared out with y'all. So if you ever have any questions, just interrupt, let me know. I always like to kind of start with that because I know I can talk fast, even though I do a lot of public speaking. It's just who I am. All right, very good. So let's dive in. So today we're going to be doing kind of an important talk that a lot of orgs really love on how to create value propositions. And so this is a framework that we give for associations specifically on this topic. So you've already met me. I would say the big thing is like the pricing for associations is exactly what I do. That's all I focus on. So we've got a small team. There's 4 of us that work in my firm, and pretty much everything I do is around training and then consulting on pricing strategy. So, for me, I always like to kind of set the why, the stage. For me, what I've really found over the last 4 years is we went from kind of doing everything how we always have. And I think a lot of associations were very comfortable. And then, COVID happened and virtual rose up and all that good stuff. And I think that it just fast tracked digital transformation, what we were already doing. But I think now, especially like coming out of, I think it's a great time to look at value props across all of your products. I'm finding more and more organizations now that are looking at their membership, their sponsorship, their certifications. So not just events and like, what are we doing with those? I feel like we've kind of settled back in a bit and are doing either in person or hybrid. But I think it's a great time to reassess our value propositions. I think we got shook it up a little bit and it's a good time. So we're going to talk today about the 5 steps that we recommend that you take. There will be activities. I built that in. Now, because we're so small, I'll probably just say throw it in the chat or share out loud as we go. And if you don't want to share, you do not have to. So because there are, 5 or 6 of us on this call, I don't want anyone to feel like they need to share and feel pressured. If you are eating lunch, if you are checking emails, if you are just hanging out with your dog, that's fine. And if no one participates, my ego is not bruised. Or if you are the only one participating, that's okay. Take advantage. Don't feel shy because you're the only one. So however interactive you want to be, we'll flow with it. So when we're talking about the 5 steps to take, the first thing, here, let me set the ground. When we do the activity, if you're going to participate, really 2 tips. I want you to think of a product that you're going to work through as we talk about these steps. I recommend that you pick a product that you know really well, and also one that has a lot of, let's say, features, and maybe lacks good current value propositions. This way you can get the most out of our time together today. And this process you can use on any of your association products. But if you pick one today, I think it's beneficial if you can go back and say, hey, I got, 1 or 2 or 3 new value propositions written, then it's worth your time today. So the first step that I recommend doing is starting with internal. Um, Sit down with your team, or it might just be you, depending on how big your org is, and try to determine what is it that we are delivering as far as value. So when I say giving value, usually it's things like features and benefits of a product. It is what is your member or sponsor or attendee or whoever the audience is, what are they getting by engaging or participating with this product from your organization? Now, there are two types of value props. This is usually one of the big aha light bulbs that people get from this talk. The first kind is quantitative. So start with quantitative. What are they getting quantitatively? That's easy. And I find that's where most associations lean in. So this is probably going to be really simple. So quantitative, of course, are numerical. That means they're getting things like so many journals or publications per year, or newsletters, or a specific percentage discount on their annual registration by being a member, or sponsors are getting access to so many leads, or attendees, or things like that. So something that is numerical that you can say, hey, you're getting this by engaging with us through this experience or this product. The second type of value proposition that I want you to think of, the second step that you'll do, and you can do these together, but I want you to think of one at a time, is qualitative. Now, this is where I'm going to camp here for a second. This is to me where most associations are lacking in their value propositions from a marketing perspective. So this is kind of that aha light bulb moment that many get, is when they think of the qualitative value that they provide. So the qualitative value is more based on outcomes, experience, feelings, through engaging with you. And I do like to teach it through Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So for those of us that took like Psych 101 in undergrad, and you're like, when the hell am I ever going to use this? Ta-da! Like, you can use it today, even if you weren't a psych major. I was a psych minor. I love psychology. But I like to think of it through this lens. Now, Maslow's hierarchy of needs is around physiological needs, then safety, belonging, esteem, and self-actualization. So it's, that how do you basically become the pinnacle of who you are, and what are your foundational needs in order to be safe and secure and become that? So when you're thinking of this, I want you to think of how do you meet these needs through the product. Now, of course, like physiological and safety, you may not blatantly say, you're not going to say this provides food, clothing, and shelter, but maybe by being a member and having access to the career center, it does help them advance into their next career position. It helps them to get a higher salary. And those are things that do provide that, right? So you're not going to say it blatantly, but I do want you to think again through like tiers of what type of qualitative things are we providing. Even things like photos, right, can be a part of that, like marketing collateral. So when you're showing the event and enough space and everybody's not stuffed in like tuna, right, and they're engaging and they're smiling, that gives your basic sense of safety. Like, okay, this is a welcoming, safe environment for me, no matter what my background is, right? So having representation, all of those things in the testimonials and the photos and the videos, all of that, those are things that help. So as we talk through this, like membership is one that I like to use as an easy example here. So again, things like physiological and safety needs, I would say think about job security. So it might be telling a quick, some of these might be bullets when you're talking value propositions, but some of these might be testimonials or stories, videos that you share, quotes that you share. It could be, I'm so glad to be a member of this organization because when I lost my job, I quickly, like within 2 months, found another one because of my network through being a part of this association. Again, that speaks to physiological and safety needs. So those are the types of things you can tell there. For belonging, that's easy. That's membership all day, right? It is being a part of a community, feeling like you're not the only one. One thing that I like to say, am I allowed, is it okay if I say one cuss word? Okay. I always like to check with the group. Every group's not okay with that. I always like to say that networking post COVID is really about bitching. So, meaning networking is no, like we used to think of networking as you shake hands and maybe you can get a job or a lead or whatever. To me, what networking is now, especially coming out of like such a virtual time and now getting back to in person, is we just want to connect with other people and complain or bitch about what's going on, even if we don't get an answer, even if no one, like we might be standing at a high boy, right, at like a reception. The fact that we can just vent and say, are y'all struggling with this? Like, is this a problem for you at your organization or whatever, like for your members to do this, and maybe vent about prices of materials or whatever, getting contractors, whatever, timelines, all that, for them to be able to complain and vent and just be heard and seen and validated in that and know it's not just them, that's a level of belonging. And then it's a cherry on top if someone can say, I think I might have a solution or an answer or a trick for you. Like that's a bonus. Things like esteem, that's going to be things like as they network in a bit more and belong, things like serving, being on a committee, a task force, maybe serving on the board, speaking at a conference, being chosen to do a webinar, write a guest blog, or things like that, where they get to start flexing their professional muscles and saying, here's what we're doing as an organization, or here's what I'm even doing as an individual professional as a part of this trade organization, and kind of show off a little bit. And hopefully through that learning too. So again, you can apply this to like learning, so earning certifications or a certificate or going to an event. And then that self-actualization to me is really like awards or, kind of that recognition of what you've done. I would even include being on the board in self-actualization to a degree as well, because then they're helping to shape the future of the field and how the association is advocating and providing resources. So we do a lot around quantitative, and we're really good at saying like you get this much of these things, but I don't think we always tell the stories well and have a diversity in the types of stories. Conference might just be, I loved it, the speakers were great, over and over and over. But how did they, I won this award and I've been in the field for 20 years and I'm just so proud to be recognized. Or, these basic different things. So I'm going to pause there for a moment because we're going to move into activity and I want to see if there are any questions. So before questions, if you want to participate, think of one quantitative thing that's a part of your product and one qualitative thing that can be a part of your product. And you can just throw them in the chat. So maybe tell us what the product is, and then a quantitative and a qualitative. You don't have to write it as a value prop yet, like some snazzy thing. We're going to get to that. But just say like, yeah, here's something that I can speak to. And if you have any questions, feel free to unmute or throw it in the chat, however you're most comfortable. So I'm going to give a moment for that. Okay, Ashley, yep. Oh, I bet that's good for like collaboration. I know you're going to write it out, but like qualitative, like collaboration probably for planning. Um, Quantitative, of course, like time saved. It being such an easy resource, they could probably pull up on their phone, a tablet, some kind of electronic device. Okay, symposium and trade show. Yep. So how many people, like quantitative would be how much, how big is the booth or the area they're part of the trade show, or how many people might walk by and they have engagement with, or they get to scan how many, things, like the badges, the QR codes, whatever, get so many business cards. But then qualitative might be the ease. Like, do you have vendors in place that help with setting up? Or do you have where they can scan badges? So instead of manually collecting business cards and then they have to load them or have a coordinator load them, it just shoots everything to them and they can upload it more easily into their email marketing system. Okay, we offer a paid newsletter. Quantitative value is open procurement. Qualitative value is probably the recognition if they get mentioned. Yeah, or the ability to talk about the market. Yep. Let me see, Christine, I'm thinking of an AGM we do that has very poor attendance versus one that we do for other associations, and attendance is great. Yeah, that could be great to think of. How are you positioning them? And then Ashley, let's see, said this was for the online product, the planning product, 24/7 access to projects. Yep. And qualitative 4,000 plus projects with supporting plan specs. Yeah, see, yeah, like templates, things like that. Like the fact that they'll save time. So the quantitative is like saving time. The qualitative is the ease of that and not having to start from scratch, like telling that story. So that's great. Okay. If anyone wants to throw any questions or more thoughts, throw it in the chat. And then I'm going to move on to the next part. Even though I said 5 steps, I actually have a bonus step where I'm going to talk a bit about pricing, because usually when I do this talk, it's more value focused and people are like, yeah, but how do we price? So I'm going to give you like a quick, like, here's a few tips. So we're going to have a little more meat to this talk today. Yep, networking badge scanning for, yes, exactly. Making it easy for them, easier for them to set up. Or if you receive, of course, like shipping, it's kind of like, yeah, of course, but changing it into a story of like you're not having to, figure all this out. Like maybe we bring your stuff to your booth area for you. All you got to do is unpack it, set it up how you want. But like, we're coming around and picking it up to ship it off, or give you the labels so that we can just get it out the door. So things like that. All right, very good. So I'll let you guys keep going there if you would like. And I'm going to move on to the third thing that I want you to think about. So the next thing is, so you start with step 1 and 2, you're starting with your quantitative and your qualitative value props internally. What do you see? Now, the next step is I want you to go to the audience and have them verify or add to, and I would say both solidify what you've come up with, but also give you more. And a lot of times I will literally, when I do this step, step 3 is attendee and then also sponsor. So it's like a part, like 3A, 3B. But what I will typically do is literally lift things that they say and stick it on the website if they allow me to credit them. But even if not, rework it and it becomes a part of your story and your marketing collateral. So when it comes to attendees, so like membership, events, online education, certification, anything like that, what I recommend is doing surveys, focus groups, maybe phone calls, especially with like a trade association. If you have some of your bigger ones and you are afraid they're not going to fill it out, you're not going to get enough data, then maybe go ahead and set up some phone calls. But what I like to do is a few things. One is you can share with them the value statements of here's what you get, and then maybe ask them to rank them. Or maybe ask them which resonate with you the most and the least, so you can get an idea of where you're heading. You can ask for feedback. You can also ask them, what are we missing? What value are you getting? What would you tell a prospective member or a prospective attendee, or whatever the situation is, and have them give you some value statements, especially the qualitative. So you might even walk them through and say, how have we helped you with like basic needs, just like job security and all that? What's a story of belonging, esteem, self-actualization, and then lift that and put that in. So one example is one time we were testing like an online database where there were thousands of articles that you can kind of search through with keywords and find what you needed. And of course, a quantitative there would be like, there's thousands of articles, or you can search within seconds, right? And get hundreds of hits. But the qualitative, one person said, what I love about it is on my team, my boss looks to me to have all the answers on this area. And my secret weapon is I go into the article database and search, and I can usually find the right answer to anything that my boss is asking me like that. And I look really good to them. And I'm like, that's a great qualitative value proposition. It's like a level of like job security, esteem, looking good, looking smart. You don't have to have all the answers. You just have to know where to go to get the answer. And the association is providing that to you. That is a huge, qualitative value proposition that other people can probably resonate with. Like, yeah, I want to look good in front of my, boss or my peers, and I have this in my back pocket. Yes, yeah, secret. Yes, very good, Rebecca. So that, and then using that, like telling that quick little, 2, 3 line story of like, I love the article database. I can always get the answers that I need quickly for my boss, and I look, like I know everything that there is to know about our field. Something like that resonates differently with people than, our article database has 10,000 articles, going back over the last 30 years. That's cool, right? But like, how do you supplement that with some qualitative and tell the story? So those are the types of things I like to do with them. I'm very good with surveys. I think it's a great way to have them like rank them, give feedback, reword. Like you could say, hey, if you want to reword any of these, how would you, or what else? And maybe give examples or considerations. Focus groups help too, because then you can massage a bit more and like give these examples, and that makes people go, oh, and if you record them, even better, then you can go back and re-listen and finesse them. So I do like to do that. And then with sponsors, I want to hit on them too, because again, this can go across any product. More so phone calls, meetings with them. You can do a survey depending on how responsive they are to something like that. It depends on your industry, right? And your partnerships. So a survey can work. I don't do focus groups though. I'm just never a fan of getting sponsors in the same room unless it's the trade show. Like if we're talking pricing, packaging, anything, they compare, and I don't like that. But I do like to figure out, and also what is it that they need? That whole like ask why 5 times. Is it the brand awareness, or is it a certain number of leads? Like, for the marketing budget that we are investing into your association, this is really what we need to make it a no-brainer for us. And then how do you do that? But what are some of the qualitative things that make their life easier, right? So what tools, like if you're doing a virtual something, do they just have PDFs and videos telling who they are, or do you also instill like a scheduling tool for them that links with API to their system, or do you allow them to embed their own? And this way, people are quicker to maybe set up a call, or whatever. So, how much you do, do you share the leads? Do you share the emails? All of that can vary, but how easy are you making it for them to try to get in front of your audience and convert some of them so that they do have an ROI? So that's kind of that. So what I want you to do is think of, based on the product that you've chosen, the next activity that I would say is figure out like what might you do. So is it member or sponsor facing, or attendee? But I kind of group member, attendee, all that together, and then sponsor. And then what might you do? Might it be a survey? Might it be a focus group or two? Might it be a couple phone calls and one-on-one interviews? And just throw that in the chat. And when might you do it? Like in the next month, in the next 2 months? What's realistic? I like to, again, do these steps because I don't want you to just get the info and then not do anything differently. I'm hoping that you guys will do something with this in the next month or two and get a return on your time in this training today. So feel free to throw that in the chat. I'm not going to hold you to it. Don't worry. I'm not going to like email you in 2 months and say, did you do this? So you can all do it or not. But if you do it, when might you do it? Let's see. I'm going to look at some of the other things that came in. So Christine said qualitative attending with X amount. Yep. Networking, name recognition, relaxed atmosphere to discuss projects and products. Yeah. Like one trend that I'm seeing, Christine, to that effect is not wanting to make in-person conferences so busy, but giving some breathing room for like natural, like hangout lounge, like having the back-to-back sessions and you're just going. I think a lot of people find a lot of value in being able to connect and network and talk about what they're learning and things like that. So trying to balance it a bit. Email someone, she wants to make sure we did it. Okay, Rebecca, we can connect on
I
LinkedIn.
wouldn't be mad if you told me
Right.
doing stuff right.
Okay, maybe we will. Okay, let's see, something depends on who it's directed to. Yep. Yeah, absolutely. And you might just pick, Stephanie, to be realistic, like you might just pick one thing. Like you might say, okay, we're just going to do exhibitors and that's it. Or so it's up to you. Go for all of it or just do one thing, but whatever's realistic for you. Yes, Chrissy. Yeah. You don't want, you want it to be productive time. I'm very big on that and efficiency. Like, here's what we're looking for. Let's stick to that and get it. They might share some feedback of how it can be better, and that's great. But you're kind of looking for like, how are we doing well right now, and what makes you come. All right,
So
very
Michael, can I interject?
please.
So we did a really good survey kind of coming out of COVID and before it was event specific. So we have 3 parts to the business. Events is a big one. So when we were making that shift from, we did all virtual for a little bit. That was awful. We tried hybrid, which was worse. And then we went back to in-person. So when we were coming back to in-person, we did a survey and we have, large contact database. So we sent out to everybody that we market to. And we were asking just a lot of stuff about like, what topics do you want? What style of event do you want? What time of day? And we got some really good feedback. And so we just learned from our audience. Our market told us it's a business event, keep it to business hours. We're not coming at 7 a.m. and we don't want to stay past 5. So we
Yes.
learned that very well. So we kind of
That's
bottomed out on 9 a.m. start time, because that
that's
means
good.
like parents can get their kids to school and they can still make it. If they
Yep.
like working early, they can come and set up. It's fine. You can run
Yeah.
you can check your email from your car or come into the lobby. I don't care.
Yep.
But yeah, something like
Yep.
that. We did a really kind of changed how we did events,
That's
just to
really good.
listen to the feedback. And for us, it was kind of a mix of programming plus networking. Most of our style is program focused. Like, what are we talking about? We want to give you opportunities. We want to give you good content from the stage versus like mixers and stuff. We let other people do those. But we
Yeah.
just listen. So the
Yeah.
surveys worked well, and I think it gets us better attendance. So like we've been
Yeah.
doing really well with attendance numbers, just listening to people.
That's really good. And even being able to tell some of that, qualitatively, like, this is the conference where it's like, you don't want to be here all day. We're not doing a 12-hour conference day.
No.
Like we're doing, and like we're focused on what you need and then go do your thing.
Mhm.
Do you want to go out all evening and have dinner with other people, or do you want to go back to your room and like chill, or go back home if you're local, or whatever, right? I fully agree with that. So telling that story too, because that's going to resonate then with other people who are looking to attend. Like, how is this a bit different? So I love that. And one other thing I'll say too is I get this question a lot, like, because my philosophy is ask them and then figure out how to make it work in a way that works for your organization. So ask them about value, which is what you just hit on, and also about price. And usually people are like, really? I'm like, yeah, like if you ask people, they will tell you. Like,
Mhm.
they're choosing to be a part of your organization. They're not, this is not a game or a gimmick. Like, they'll tell you what they like, what they don't, what's too much, what feels right. Like, they'll let you know. That's all you got to do is ask and listen. It's
What's
the
funny, I'll share also, like I talked to another association, another local association, who they hold their meetings every Friday, the fourth Friday of every month, and I start at
okay.
7 a.m. And since COVID, Fridays are generally work from home. Like even most of us are hybrid. We all
Yeah,
work from home. So their attendance has pretty much cut in half.
I was
Like
gonna
it's
say
gone down.
no
And I
one
was
wants to
telling
go
them,
on
like, yeah,
Friday.
you're on a Friday and at 7 a.m. in person, like I'm not going. I don't want to go.
No,
It's too early. I
no,
have to leave my house
no,
by 6:15 to get there.
no.
Forget it. On a
Yeah.
Friday?
Yeah, no.
So,
To me, Mondays aren't good and Fridays aren't good. Like Tuesday,
yeah,
Wednesday,
totally.
Thursday is perfect. Like Monday, people need to set up their week and mosey on in. And Friday, we're about done. We're checking out. Like we're finishing up a few things, and if it can wait, it can wait. So I agree. You got to know your people in your industry and all that jazz. I agree. Okay, very good. Very good. All right. So next step, let me see. Okay, chat looks good. Agree about not wanting to make it too busy, and then closer to the AGM November, I would do a member survey asking why they do not attend. Yeah, that's very good. That's very good, Christine. I like that. All right, so the next step then is to write the value proposition. So you've step 1 and 2, you thought of quantitative, qualitative. Step 3, you're talking to the audience and finessing them a bit. Now what I like to do is actually write them, because now you should have a good, working mold that you can finesse a bit. And you can always test these. What I do is I have here examples of virtual events, and I have, oh, it's all in the same one, sorry. And I have attendee and sponsor, and then each one has a quantitative and a qualitative. So I'm kind of giving you like every option of who it might be towards, and quantitative or qualitative. So you can apply this to any product, but this way you get an idea. So for the attendee value props, the first one says, unlike our live event, you can access every single session live and on demand. So you do not have to make split or have to make rush decisions and make split second decisions. Wait, rush between sessions and make split second decisions. Sorry. So that one is more qualitative. Like, I'm thinking like big events. So not like the one day, not, kind of like lunch and learn ish, or, a few sessions, but like when you're at like an annual, like a big event, sometimes it's like, oh, I want to go to this and this. And so if it were recorded, that could be a qualitative value proposition. And then the other one is more quantitative, that they would have access to all the sessions, which is a 250% increase in training and knowledge, because maybe they would normally only be able to go to, about 15 or 16 sessions or something like that. So if you're recording, now, if you're not, there are other things that you can speak to for like an in-person event or for membership. So this is just one example. And then for sponsor, the qualitative is no need to put in sweat equity assembling boots. We'll set up your landing page with a demo scheduling tool, so we bring leads right to you. Of course, we found that, sponsors don't love virtual events, and I get it, but how can we make it easier for them to the best of our ability and streamline? And then the qualitative, the more numerical one says, we're proud to grow from 500 attendees on site, 50 of which might be great leads, to over 2,000 registrants, quadrupling your pool of lead sources. And the important thing here is I specifically said quadrupling your pool of lead sources, not leads, because we don't know if all of them will be qualified leads. It might be more people from the same teams attending, and therefore, you still have one main decision maker, but it's still more people. So what are those things that you can speak to? Or another example here would be, let's say you have a smaller sponsor who's been investing in like webinars, sponsoring sessions of webinars. Maybe now they're thinking about coming to your annual conference and sponsoring. So you can kind of anchor that as well and say, hey, normally on a webinar, you get 50 people that sign up. If you come to our conference, we're going to have 500 people there. So that's like a 10x, people in front of you in the room. So, yeah, like it might cost more to sponsor there, but you're hopefully getting a much stronger ROI. So this is, to me, some good examples of quantitative and qualitative value props that are both member or attendee facing and sponsor facing. So I'm going to leave these up. I'm going to tell you the activity, the next one. But I would love for you to think of, now I know you have not gone like step 2 and actually done the work. We've just said we're going to do it, of talking with the audience. But I want you to think, if you can, try to write either one quantitative and one qualitative, or one of one or the other. I'm open to however you want to do it. I'm going to leave these up, because if you literally want to steal the verbiage and tweak it, I don't care. Like, it's not going to be a copyright infringement. I wrote these. You have my full permission to use them however you would like. Make your life easy. Just don't use them multiple times on the same product, because then it's going to read really weird and like you're a robot and like AI wrote it. But but you could even feed this in now to like Chat GPT and say, hey, write more value propositions on these points that sound like this, and then it'll run it for you. So I'm going to give you a minute. Pick either your quantitative or a qualitative point, or one of each, and write them, finesse them a bit, and put them in the chat. So I'm going to give a moment for that. And don't be timid. If you don't think it's that great, that's okay. You just started learning this 30 minutes ago. I don't expect you to write them, like you're a pricing professional just yet. Mhm. Yep, that's great, Rebecca. That's great. Yep, I love that. And it's almost 2 in 1, so you could put them together. You can, split them out, repurpose them in other ways too, like, because again, like these value props you can put in emails, you can put in, again, on like landing pages, PDFs, whatever, social posts. So, you can use them across your marketing. So it could be that you use just one of the 2 lines, or it could be that you use both back to back, depending on if it's long form, if it's shorter form, all of that good stuff. Okay, very good. All right. I'm going to, and if you're still working on it, that's fine. Put it in as you have time, and then I'll move on. Oh, let me read Christine's, and then I'm going to move on. For members to network with other members as well as industry associates. Yep, that's very good. And I would say even like then to like push it a little bit further. What are some of the outcomes of that networking? Like one thing that I sometimes like to use is verbiage to the effect of like you get to connect with your peers instead of feeling like you're alone on an island. So depending on the role, sometimes especially like leaders, so not when maybe there's like a bunch of their equivalents on their team, But sometimes if they're like one of one or one of a few, or one of one on their site or something like that, then it can feel good to like get with other people that are in the same position. So that's good. Yes. Okay, very good. So the last step, and then we're going to get into like the bonus pricing. Yeah, absolutely, Christine. Then that's the benefit of like small groups like this, is I get to give real feedback instead of just teaching. Like hopefully you guys are walking away with something for later this week or next week to use. So last step before the bonus step is communicating and selling. So this one's pretty simple. It's more like checklist considerations. So when it is attendee facing, member facing, always share story of evolving. I'm very big on that. Like, don't just hit them up, but like, we heard you, this is what you're looking for, you want more of this, we're bringing it. And then lay on those qualitative value props. And of course the quantitative still, but I like to see more qualitative. It resonates more. People sometimes don't even care how many days or how many sessions, at least over the days. They more so want to know, the big picture, and then how is it going to transform them. Do the qualitative and quantitative value. One thing I bet, this is usually something I see quite often. I bet that if you go look at your value props, most of them are probably quantitative right now. I would love for that to flip and have more qualitative. So yeah, you still might bullet the quantitative stuff, but layer on those quick stories. If you can add a picture to it of the person who said it, or just a generic picture of people laughing or working or whatever, and you're telling a story and reinforcing it with that imagery, that's really powerful. And then think through any FAQs, think through anything that they might have if you're making changes. I'm very big on like conceptualizing anything new or anything that you might be adding in. Now, if it's sponsor focused, I have more negotiation tips. Always give time, don't rush, and don't discount. Like, I know that's easy to do, that's a whole other training, but like discounting really hurts your bottom line way more than people realize, because when you're discounting, you're taking away pure profit. You're not taking away, like, whatever percent you're giving off is not reducing your costs and your profit. It's just reducing your profit. Your costs are still there. So you're literally chipping away. And a lot of times with things like sponsorships and like in-person events, the margins are so small, like 10%, 20%, that if you give 10% off, even if you're making a 20% profit margin, you've given away half of your profit. So like, that's not, you're gonna have to, sell two of those packages just to break even with 10% off. So be very careful with discounting. The other thing is, I like the yes if model. So quick example, let's say you sell, like, hey, you can sponsor 5 webinars throughout the year for $1,000. So it's $200 each. If they say, great, we'd love to do that, but our budget's 800, instead of saying no, like, nope, it's 1,000, that's it. What I say is, okay, yes, we can do that if we take out one webinar so that it's equitable to everybody else. So we can do 4 for $800. So that positively frames it. Instead of saying no, it's saying, sure, yeah, if we do this. And to them, it's kind of hard to argue that, like, oh, well, no, we wanted all 5 for 800. And then it's easier to stand on all 10 toes and be like, no, like, it's, it's $1,000 for all 5. So, but if you want 4, if you want 800, we can do 4. That's fine. And then always think long term. Like, again, in the moment, I get we need the sales and the revenue, but again, even with that quick discounting example that I just gave, if you rush, if you're just signing, if you're not putting yourself in a good position for financial sustainability. And that to me is what matters. We have to be around and continue to exist to serve our organizations and our industry. So I'm going to give some quick bonus, like, pricing tips. If there are any questions, continue to feel free to throw them in the chat at any point or interrupt me. But I'm going to give some quick tips here. So when it comes to pricing, because I get asked about this, it's usually what everybody wants to know. First of all, to me, there is a reason that I say measure the value for pricing. You should be pricing based on the value that you deliver. It shouldn't just be throwing spaghetti at the wall or looking at competitors. Half of the time, your competitors don't know if you don't know what you're doing and you're looking at them, they probably don't know what they're doing. And you're all just like figuring it out. And that's not it. It's kind of like when we, tell our kids, like, well, would you do this just because your friends do it? Like, they shouldn't. So for me, there's a few different methods. There's 2 main methods. that I recommend using. You can Google these. They're also in our book. The book is available for free on our website. It's an actual like full-on book, not a little PDF book, but I wrote a book called Pricing for Associations. So that's on Amazon, the paperback, but the PDF version is free on our website. I'll have the link at the end, and we have examples and like all that in there and templates. So the first one's the Van Westendorp. That's where you're basically asking open-ended. So you're saying, okay, based on what we're providing, and it's really good if you're enhancing. So let's say the event, now I would say like for Rebecca's point of moving it all to like, let's say 9 to 5 or 9 to 4, that may not make them want to pay more. But let's say then that you also have laser focused down and said, we're offering more direct sessions on the topics that you want, and maybe less like networking fluff time, because that's specifically you want to come and learn, have lunch, and then get out, right? So you might say, okay, like for the old event, this is what we charge. For the new event, as we have, we've heard you, we're doing these additional things. And the way I like to word it is, how much more are you willing to pay for this enhanced or improved event? And then you ask a series of questions. At what price point is it too expensive? Is it expensive but worth considering? Is it inexpensive? And is it too cheap to be of value? And what you get, this looks like, ooh, but there's like, you can plug this in online. There's programs that do it. But basically, it's what percent of people answer for each of the 4. And you can plot that. And where they intersect kind of gives you an acceptable price range of what people are willing to pay. So this is how you don't throw spaghetti at the wall, but you go, oh, okay, for this enhanced membership or sponsorship or events or whatever, they're willing to pay an extra $100 or $200 per year or whatever the case is, if we make these adjustments. So you can test it before you implement and just assume. And then what you can do is you can take that range and then you can do what's called conjoint analysis, which is more of the closed-ended. So this is an example where you can say, okay, here's the current membership and you get what you get, and this is the price. Or you can get this enhanced one that includes these additional things for this price. And this price is extra, let's say $45 is based on this work. So you're not just pulling it out of nowhere. And then you could ask them in a survey, which one are you picking, A or B? And this way you can say, okay, like 80% of our people are picking B, that's a winner. We're good to move to this new thing. Or 60% are. So maybe we'll phase in B and give them an option for a year or two, and then get the testimonials, the qualitative feedback on how these additional things make their life even easier, help them get their work done even quicker. And then that might move more people. So then we can, get everybody into this new thing. And you could even test like a B versus C, like if there's another option, A versus B, A versus C, B versus C. So you can kind of do that route and go, okay, which one do you want? And what are you, willing to do? And really make sure that you're hitting the mark. So those are some quick tips. You don't need to worry about this right now. Again, this is kind of more like, here's some tips and things that I would recommend doing around price. And it's quick, high level, but I wanted to share that in case there's pricing questions. I'll answer those as well at the end. But here's the final thing I kind of want you to think about. You don't have to put this in the chat. I'm going to just leave it up for a moment. But, if you're going to do this process, when might you meet as a team and do the quantitative and qualitative value props? When might you talk to people, like a survey? That might just take a month. That might just take a month, unless you are low bandwidth or you have annual event in a month or something. And it's like, whoa, we're going to wait till like August to do this. And then write the value propositions. And then if you're going to do any pricing stuff, so kind of think through, okay, what are we going to do next? How are we actually going to do something with this training? That's my goal and my hope, is that, at least 1 or 2 of you really do something, and in 3 months, 6 months, you could say, hey, we rewrote value props for this product or for these 3 products, and it's way more compelling. That's going to help you with selling. It's going to help you with garnering a better price. And it's simply using the voice of your customer to tell the truth about what you're already doing. Like, you're just highlighting it in a different way, instead of just speaking to the quantitative for the most part and what they're getting in a checklist. So I'll leave this. I'm going to come back to this to think through. But from there, the final thing I'm going to share also is the link to the book. So I'll put that in the chat. But if you want to download the book for free, if you go to our website, pricingforassociations.com/book, then you can download that for free. And then also my LinkedIn, I will stick in the chat. I'm very active on there. I'd love to connect with everybody there. So feel free to send a connection request. You don't have to like just follow. And if you ever have a question, you can always message me there. I'm very active. I tend to respond within a day, if not a couple hours. So feel free to reach out there as you would like. But I'm going to leave it on this slide while we do Q&A. So maybe if you want to kind of jot down next steps, then you can do that. But with that, that's actually everything. So let's do Q&A. You guys might get like a half hour back because we'll probably finish in the next 10 or 15 minutes. So any questions, feel free to unmute. You can put it in the chat, but if you just want to unmute and talk, feel free to do that. I'm going to expand this to make sure I can really see everybody and know who's talking. So any questions?
So I have a question. How do you go through that pricing the Van Westendorp? Is that something that you would do like with people one-on-one, or is that a survey? Like, how
Yeah,
would you deploy that?
yeah. So we typically we do it as a survey.
Okay.
So we will first, so normally first, if you're talking about like pricing and like really adjusting the price, what I recommend doing is a value survey first, which we didn't talk about in this training. So I'm going to kind of go off and give ideas on that. But what you would do there is you would basically do a survey on the product and ask certain questions, things like I always like to ask persona-based questions so that you can segment and not just look in aggregate, but also, so it might be like the size of their organization, you know, whether it's by revenue, employees, whatever. It could be like, are they a current member? Yes, no, but we have been in the past 3 years, and just no. So, you know, lapsed member versus current versus non. It can be questions on how active they are, like have they participated in certain things, how long they've been a member, things like that. Then I get into value questions. So I'm going to use membership as the example because it's always, to me, universally the easiest. So then what I would do is I would list out those value props that you have. So you might have, let's say, like 10 things, right? Let's say it's like resources, blog, whatever, right? I would list those out. And all this is in the book. Again, it's not a sales thing. You get it for free. So I don't care about book sales. I just want you to have the information, but it is in there so you don't have to memorize this part. And templates are in there. But then I effectively list those out and I ask them for each one, is this something that you utilize? Either yes, no, because I didn't know it existed, no, because it lacks value, or no, because we don't need it. If they don't need it, why? Or you can just let that go. If it lacks value, how do we make it better? Like logic flowed to each one. No, because I didn't know it existed. That's just good to know. And if they say yes, then we ask, okay, on a scale of 1 to 5, how valuable is this resource to you? And is this something that keeps you renewing your membership? No, somewhat, or yes. Or you could do a 5-point instead of a 3-point. This way you start getting that specific feedback on what are the levers by segment that makes them come back for the event, for the membership, for sponsorship. And do you need to market certain things more? Is it lacking value overall? And then you know, like, we need to do some work here. Then I ask questions around like what's missing. In general, is there anything that we can do to improve the experience? I ask questions around where else are you a member or attend events or sponsor or whatever, and what can we learn from them? And if you want to list certain competitors, you can, like, are you a member of this org, this org, this org? And if they say no, okay. But if they say yes, then okay, what can we learn from them? That gives good competitive intelligence and insight. Because if you only look at their website, again, everybody's putting their best foot forward, but you might find out like, hey, they're really good at this type of content, but then we're really good at this type of content, and that's our differentiator. And then you can lean into that in your own marketing and as you write qualitative value props. And then pricing wise, I usually ask a couple preliminary questions. I'll say, like, are you the purchasing decision maker for your organization? This way you get an idea of, is this the person that's really deciding to be a member? I'll ask something like, how much is your annual budget for a membership or PD or whatever sponsoring? And then an open-ended, let them fill it in. And then just to get an idea of like what percentage you might be. And then I'll also ask something along the lines of, for the price paid, and then have like 3 radio button. Either the value is higher than the price paid, the value and price are in alignment, or the price is higher than the value paid. And you actually want more of them to say that the price is higher than the value. because that tells you that you're already at the limit. That's a good thing because they're there. They're not members. They're just telling you don't go up much more because then I'm going to leave. If they say the value's higher, that actually means you're underpricing. And if they say the value and price is in alignment, that's okay. Like that's what you would think you want. But I actually like, I would say out of, you know, a percentage wise, like 100 respondents, I want like, if I can see like 2/3 picking that the price is higher and 1/3 saying the price and value in alignment, that feels good to me. That means we're good. We're at a sweet spot. So add more value and then raise the price in alignment. But if it's like the price and value are in alignment, most people won't say value's higher, usually like no more than 10 or 20%. But if the majority say the price and value are in alignment, you might actually be missing money. Then from there, I do the Van Westendorp. So then I email, I'll take those people, I'll take the different segments. Let's say there's 4 segments and I'll split each segment in half. So I'll do an A for each segment and then a B. For the A, I send them the Van Westendorp. So then I basically will say, based on what they said, like how we can improve, um, I'll say, okay, like again, like here's your current membership. We're looking at adding these 3 things or improving this, and here's how. So how much more would you pay? If it's a new product, you would just ask it like this, like what price point is it? But if it's enhancing a current product, I like to say, um, how much more would you pay, or at what price? How much more would it be? At what price point would paying more be expensive? At what price point would more be expensive but worth considering? And then let them answer. That's just free text. They put in the number, and then you can kind of crunch those numbers, get an idea of how much more they're willing to pay, and then take that average, do with the B group then. So you still have representation across, but you're not fatiguing them. Everyone did the value survey, and then half are getting one pricing survey, half are getting the other. Then I do this. And it's literally like a quick, like they're super quick. Like I can even show you, I'll pull it up while we're chatting, but I'm going to pull up our survey account and literally show you what another client's looks like. But they're quick surveys. Even the value one, it might sound like a lot of questions, but the majority of what I said are radio button or checklist. It's not a lot of quality. Like if I do have qualitative, it's usually optional. That's how we keep our response rates nice and high. Here, let me share this window as we're chatting. So like, here's let's see, let's do this value survey. This is for a current client. So you can get an idea. And again, the templates are in the book, so then you can literally, or the PDF, can literally copy them. But we use the same type of, at the top, can we follow up? This way, we only invite those who say yes. Usually 98% say yes. That's who I invite to focus groups or send pricing survey. And then, what have you done? And they wanted to know state and things like that. How long have you been a member? How long do you plan on continuing in the field? And then we have the questions based on if they're a current member. And again, do you utilize this, and why, and all that. For the pricing survey, let me go back out and show you those real quick. So the pricing survey, let's do this one. Boom. So we'll ask again, maybe a quick segmentation question, because we can pull their email and layer it, but it just makes it a little bit quicker. And we ask like, which of the following tiers, this is a trade org, which tier are you in? And then based on that, they'll see just for their title or for their tier. So how much would it be, too expensive or a bargain, or too low or too expensive? And then are they interested in some of these other like A/B testing? And so they answer these questions, and then it kind of logic flows. And then we also ask about education. What have they participated in? And then if so, what price are they willing to pay for the education? So that's the end of the survey. So this might take like 3 minutes to complete. And then from there, the conjoint one, let me pull that one up, is where we actually make the graphics. So we'll call that one the product survey. And this one, so they answered again, which one, and then they got this. So do you want this or this, and optional Y, and then A or C, and then B or C. And then the different tiers, they each only saw, so they get 3 variations. That's it. Like that's all. We didn't even test the education on this one, just the membership. So this looks like a lot, but there are like 5 or 6 tiers. So each tier only got 3 questions. That was after like name and email. And then we can take those responses. Now, this one did not fare well, but I can show you kind of then the results. You can then go down. We use SurveyMonkey, but whoever you use, it doesn't matter. But then you can see, okay, for A and B, like for tier 1 to 2, which is their lowest tier, 63% picked the current, so 2/3, 1/3 split. And then the majority did not even want the C, like the even more expensive. So that's a clear, like, no, this is not going to work. And then out of B and C, most picked B. Like, if I have to, I'm going to pick B, but no one wanted C. So that's a clear, like, okay. So then you can kind of look at that. And then there are the comments. So then you can look at, okay, why. The comments are optional. Most of the time, it's going to be either they pick the bigger one because it's better value, or they don't because it's too expensive. But it's still good to ask just to see. As you can see, like out of 61, 55 left comments. Out of 59, 51 did. So they will, but by making it optional, those that are not going to are just going to select, and that's the data I need. So yeah, so that's kind of what that looks like. And again, like the templates are on our blog and in the book, so you can literally like copy them, make them your own, word them however you want. But yeah, that's the kind of work that we do with clients, is running these surveys, analyzing the results, and then making recommendations to figure out the value and the pricing. Yeah.
I like it.
Yep.
Thank you.
There's a method. Most people just don't know it.
A
That was
little far advanced compared to what we do, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely good food for thought.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you. Yeah. So yeah, any other questions? Or right now, usually what happens is people think of something a day or two later. So again, you can always message me on LinkedIn is the easiest way, because if you email us through the website, it's my team, and then they funnel it, and it can take like 2 days for me to get to it. But if you LinkedIn message me, it's me, and I reply within usually an hour or two, if not a day.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. Does
Of
anybody have
course.
any other questions?
A lot to think about.
I know in 24 hours I'm going to have a whole bunch of them. So
Yeah, you could just message me.
I will do. Well, thank you so much for spending your time and sharing your wisdom with it. We really appreciate it.
Of course. Thanks for having me. And it was good to meet all of you. And thank you guys for participating. I appreciate it.
Yeah, very helpful.
Great. All right. Well, thank you all very much.
Thank you. We'll see you soon.
See you. Bye,
Bye.
guys.
Bye, everyone.
Hey, it's just me. Is
Hey.
everything okay with your mother-in-law?